Do you remember the first song that you wrote after that had happened?
Yeah, it was Goodbye.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the first song that I wrote for Slipknot after this happened, and that song is all about all of us sitting in my basement in Des Moines, and we had all just found out that Paul was dead, and it's about that intense numbness and like the quietest of quiets. I mean, just so insane. I mean, you're literally sitting there going, what just fucking happened, you know? And that's what that song's about. It is about that moment of looking at each other going, fuck, you know? Yeah, no, that was it was a hell of a day.
Well, there's one line I wrote down, and maybe I'm from that song, and maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but as a band, you're a public figure, so in a sense, the grieving process also was a little bit on the public sphere. So the last line, I think, of the song was, "No one can know what we're feeling, so don't even try." So was that an issue that people had their opinions and they kind of, or?
No, it's just, I mean, everyone who's ever lost somebody is going to deal with things a different way, you know. You can relate, but you can never truly understand, you know. I mean, and that's what we were trying to say. It's like, we've all lost him. You're going to grieve in your way, we're going to grieve in ours. So don't try to act like everything's okay just because it's been 3 years on, you know? Because we had so many people trying to pressure us to make an album. We just kept saying, fuck you, we're not ready. Stop trying to make us make an album. And that's where that line really comes from. It's just basically holding our hand up and going, look, until you've walked in our shoes, you will never understand it. And you know, it was just our way of setting the record and just being like, you like, you'll get an album when we're ready, basically.
When was this point that you were ready?
You know, we just kind of started talking. I mean, there was no specific point. We just kind of started talking. And then Clown and Jim got together and started working on some great music, man. I mean, really, really good stuff. Sarcastrophe came out of it. AOV. Just all this great stuff really came out of that. These like demo processes, you know. So between that and the songs that I had, and then the stuff that we wrote in the studio, you know, it just really seemed like we had a great template for telling the story, you know. And we all kind of looked at each other and went, "This feels good. Let's chase this. Let's go after it."
What did it do for the songwriting dynamic? Because obviously Paul was an integral part of it.
Yeah. You know, we learned a lot from Paul, to be honest. You know, he had such a different way of looking at music that you couldn't help but pick it up, you know, because Paul was the kind of guy who would hear a riff and then he would immediately think of 12 different other ways to play it, you know, like he just had, there was just something about his understanding of music. And luckily we all picked that up, you know, and we all kind of remembered, you know, jamming with him and bouncing ideas off of him, and it was cool, you know. And I think because of that, it just felt like his spirit was with us, you know. Like, I'm not a religious person, I'm not anything, but it just felt like he was with us, and that it just made it that much more enjoyable, you know.
But some of the songs obviously are quite emotional and personal. So was it difficult to get through some of them?
So yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, Goodbye was a fucker, you know. Getting through that one was tough. Skeptic was a hard one. If Rain Is What You Want was particularly difficult. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and then, you know, obviously the stuff kind of reflecting our own self-loathing, like Lech and Negative One. that was just letting the dog off the chain, you know, and you have to do that, you know, and especially in the grieving process, a lot of people don't realize just how selfish you can be. Even in the face of trying to be strong for the people you love, there's a certain part of you that's always going to be selfish, and you know, to disavow that is a negative thing. You can't do it. You have to embrace it, and you have to let yourself feel it, so then you can let go of it. And that was, you know, that was just me trying to be as honest as possible in the lyrics.
I can imagine some songs, are they, when you perform them live, do they take you back?
You know, it's weird in retrospect. Negative One does, just because it's such a personal song for me. You know, it's one of those songs where it's like I'm looking in on myself, and I always find it difficult to embrace it as much as I did on the album, because, you know, there's a part of you that is trying to entertain, but at the same time, it's that crazy, like, fuck, you know. But it's getting easier, you know, and I think it would be harder if the new stuff didn't fit in so well with the new stuff, with the old stuff. But it really does. I mean, it really lines up really well. So, I mean, luckily we did something good there.
Well, one theme, I should say, that I kind of thought I saw on the album, I might be wrong again, but was something about the realization of the finality of life. Is that correct, or is that fair?
Well, I guess there's probably a little bit of that. One of the main themes, I hope, and I hope I put this on there, is that you can't take anything for granted. You know, someone you love could be gone that quick, and you'll never get another chance to see it and tell them you love them. You know, and that's difficult. You know, especially when we as humans are so selfish. It's hard to have that kind of openness now. You know, especially in this day and age when everyone is so me. It's hard to imagine anything like that being taken from you. And unfortunately, until you've lived that, you'll never understand it. Fortunately, and then maybe this is one of the only positive things to come from such a tragedy like that, it's made me appreciate everyone in this band. And I try to do my best to make sure that they all know how much I appreciate them every day.
Yeah, because one of the things why the fourth album kind of you couldn't get together with each other is one of those things. So when this album came around, was everybody really focused and really?
Once we got in the studio, yeah, there was a lot of focus because we were all on the same page again, you know? And one of the reasons we were able to focus as strongly as we did is we finally started talking about the grieving process. We hadn't talked to each other about it. Okay. You know, we didn't realize what we were all going through and that we were all going through the same thing, you know, because we had all cocooned ourselves in that kind of sadness, that self-preservation kind of thing.
Right.
So once we got in the studio, and honestly, once everybody started kind of reading my lyrics and started seeing the story that I was telling, that's when they really, really started to go, oh shit, well, this is what I was going through. This is what I felt that day. This is what I was going, you know, this is how I've been dealing with it. And once we did that, I mean, it was almost like fingers closing on a fist. And it really made it so much more powerful. And you could feel it on the music. I mean, it's so punchy and so emotional that, you know, it just made everything effortless. You know, as hard as it was, it made everything effortless.
Finally then, because I'm almost out of time, there's one song I wrote a line from down. It's Custer. And the line is, anything exceptional gets crushed by common people with jealousy and ignorance and their common evils.
And all their common evils.
And all their common evils. Yeah. So can you explain?
Well, that song is essentially about everyone kind of looking in on us as we were making this album, saying they can't do it. They can't make another album. They're not going to be able to make an album as special as everything else they've done. And that's basically them trying to put their limitations on us, and we just aren't having that. You know, nobody dictates to us what we can and can't do, and that's what it's all about. It's basically me just holding this up and being like, you don't get to dictate, you don't get to say what we do. We do what we want, and at the end of the day, this is the album that you're going to get. And if we weren't happy with it, none of you people would hear it. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's just basically that message of. I mean, it's right there in the chorus. Cut me up and fuck me up. You can go ahead and dissect us and tear us apart all you want, but you're just not getting through. You're not getting in. This is the way it is.
Because as a band, you have been scrutinized quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
From the very beginning, because of the music you make, but also the performance and the way you look. So I assume this has always been the attitude then.
Basically, yeah. I mean, we when we're on the same page, we move as one, we fight as one, and we are one.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.